Hello and welcome to AfriDominion Show. My name is Freeman Singirankabo, and thank you so much for tuning in to our program today. Those of you joining us live, welcome so much. And I'd like to give you a warm welcome right at this hour for our program in English. This is a program that continues from the Kinyarwanda or from the Bantu language that we had just had a few hours ago. So it is with that in mind that I want to give you guys a huge welcome and asking you to remember to subscribe and share this program, especially those of you guys following our program via social media. And for those of you following via radio stations or television stations, we also want to give you a huge welcome and thank you for taking the time to join our program today. And with that in mind, I also want to put it out there that for those of you guys who are joining our programs for the very first time, we are so thrilled that you can take some time out of your busy schedule to come and join us. We want to promise you that this year in 2025, we are going to be having some very serious conversations, conversation that relates to our daily lives as Africans and our African family at large. And we would love to give you an invitation so you can come and be a part of it, especially in the midst or in the spirit of searching for solutions of our own problems without having to go outsourcing these issues or these problems elsewhere. Are we together? And so, with that in mind, I want to give you how you can get in touch with us. You can get in touch with us straight from our website, which is www.afridominion.com, www.afridominion.com, and our email is info@afridominion.com. Info@afridominion.com. And with that in mind, guys, I want to give you a huge welcome, like I said, and I want to jump right into the conversation of today. And I would love to give you guys a huge welcome in case you'd like to follow straight from our Zoom. We have our Zoom open, and I will be more than happy to let you guys come in and have a crack at the conversation or just have a bite at the conversation. And so, what is our topic for today that I want to discuss? Today, I want to talk about us as African and African family. And the main topic is going to be how many African military bases are there outside of Africa for security reasons. I repeat, how many African military bases are there outside of African continent for security purposes or for security reasons. That's what I want to talk to you about. And why am I discussing this, brothers and sisters? I have been telling you since the very beginning that Africans, we need unity. We need unity as Africans. And we also need self determination in terms of security. We want to secure our borders. I'm not just talking about one African nation, I'm talking about African continent. We want to be able to secure it. So we have things like, so we can be able to get rid of things like terrorism or all these wars that comes from the sky and find it all the way to African, to the African soil. But we also want to make sure that we promote our self-development. We want to be a part of a part of our own self-development as Africans, and hence each and every one of us, we must have a part in it. So today I want to ask of you again, how many African bases, how many African military bases, to be specific, are there outside of Africa for security reason or for security purposes? Um, I'm posing this question because right now, Africa, it's considered, or let me put it this way, I look at Africa right now as a plantation, whereas as Africans, we are slaves, we are modern slaves. Everybody else except Africans has a saying in on the continent of Africa. You will find many nations coming to Africa and taking over Africa. Many various locations and countries within Africa, they claim to be sovereign, or we claim to be sovereign nations, yet we are under the rulership of outsiders. I'll give you an example. Look right now in Ivory Coast or Cote d'Ivoire. French troops are being chased out. They're being asked kindly to go, to get out of the country. Why in the world is French troops in Ivory Coast to begin with? And also, to be frank and to be bold, it is not just the French. You have the United States, army there, or the military, the United States military. You have the British military. You have the Germans military. You have the Chinese. You have the Russians. You've got all these military from from foreign governments in Africa. Yet, how many of African bases or African military are in the United States, for example? We're talking about bases, not just a few personnel who are being instructed or who are going there for education purposes. How many African bases, military bases, are in the United Kingdom? How many military how many military bases, African military bases, are in France? How many African military bases are in Germany, in China, in Russia? I want you guys to think about that as brothers and sisters, because right now Africa is under threat, a coexistential threat. And as Africans, we are literally right in the middle of it. And most of us, we have no idea what is happening, because either you're not caring about it, or it's just something that is not sexy enough that you give your attention. However, when the enslavement knocks all the way to your door, when it actually affects you and your family, then you wake up wondering what's been happening, what has happened here. So right now, Africa is being enslaved, what I call modern slavery. It is openly out there. Africans, we claim to be sovereign nations, yet we are under the rulership and the leadership of outsiders, of other governments. To make matters worse, you have all these foreign military bases installed within Africa. And by the way, it may seem like it's a friendly installation. However, it is a forceful installation. Why else would you need the protection of another army from another nation without your direct interest in it? I want to put it out there to you, brothers and sisters, you Africans, even those of you who understand, who are following this program. I believe it is about time that in 2025, Africans themselves must self-determine. Africans must secure their own security without the interference of outsiders. I know already there is something we call in national interest of different countries. For example, here in the United States, for the interest of the United States, you will find the U.S. military in various places. But now we shy away from saying that there is military bases. We usually now use a new term, security advisors. So you will find many security advisors specifically all over Africa. It is literally all over the world, but specifically for the African, for the African purposes, for the conversation we're having right now, you will find many U.S. advisors or U.S. security advisors in Africa. How many African security advisors do you find in the United States? How many African security advisors do you find in France, in the United Kingdom? How many of them do you find in Russia, in China? So, brothers and sisters, you need to wake up and realize that right now we are being enslaved openly. Most of us, we are very young at this game, or we are very young at this happening. However, as we growing up, we are going to take responsibilities of that which is happening in our own continent. And by the way, openly discussing about this, it is to raise the awareness. There's nothing wrong in discussing about it, except that these third parties do not want you to know of it or to know about it. But I also want to put out there that the African leaders that we have right now have been enabling all these shenanigans to take place. There's no way a foreign military can install themselves in any one of the African countries without an African government blessings on the top of it. So, for instance, right now, if we look at Djibouti as one of the example nations that I want to bring in this discussion, Djibouti is an African nation right next to Somalia, in East Africa, to be specific. If you look on the map, you will find Djibouti next to Somalia. You have the United States military base in Djibouti. Right now in 2025, Iran's United States operations all over Africa, even outside of Africa. You will find that there is something they call AFRICON. Part of the AFRICON is there in Djibouti, the same way it's in Germany. Again, this is something, this can sound like mambo jumbo to most of you guys because the majority of you have never heard of that. So, why in the world is the United States a military base in Africa? You will quickly find out that for the interest of the United States, it is necessary for the United States military base to be in Djibouti. Yet the United States is thousands and thousands of miles away from Djibouti. And my question becomes here, is Djibouti an annexation, or is Djibouti a part of the United States? Is Djibouti really a sovereign nation? Another example that I want to give you, Rwanda. Those of you who know Rwanda, you do have United States security advisors in the country. Ghana, you have the United States security advisors in Ghana. Now, specifically, Rwanda and Ghana, they have this agreement, the U.S. United States Status Force Agreement with Ghana, and the United States Status Force Agreement with Rwanda. These security agreement between these nations, they enable the United States military to go in and out of Rwanda, to go in and out of Ghana without any issues. Yet it does not allow Rwandese security personnel or Ghanaian security personnel to go in and out as they please. Again, why is it that we have inequality in this strength, in this military strength, in these nations agreements? So we have an issue, guys. Africa is being enslaved openly. It has been enslaved openly for centuries, but now in 2025, it is a conversation that I would love to bring on the table so we can literally openly discuss about it. It is happening. There's you cannot even hide it. And the fact that it is happening is an evidence that someone is allowing it to happen. Now, the quicker we catch up as to why it is happening, then the better we can understand a way forward and whether it is in the very best interest of African and African families at large. Because right now, Africa and African people, we are on the verge of extinction. Listen to what I'm saying, guys. Africa and African people are on the verge of being extinct. You may ask how and why. Africa right now is the battlefield, is the new warfare. Is the new warfare background or backdrop for everybody. Any country, any nation that wants to have a weapon testing in Africa, they will be there. Those who want to try weapons, those who want to try new gadgets, Africa is where it's being tested. Not just any regular weapons. We're also talking about chemical weapons as well. They're all being tested in Africa. So why is it that Africa is a laboratory for the new warfare? Why is it that Africa is the laboratory for testing new weapons? Why is it Africa continuously experience warfare nonstop? Yet we do not manufacture a single weapon in Africa. Listen to me, guys. Africa doesn't manufacture weapons. Now, I also want to make it clear. You will find a few countries like, for example, Kenya and Uganda. They manufacture some bullets. They may have ammunition here and there, but they do not manufacture weapons. They manufacture a piece of a weaponry here and there, but not overall. So I want to ask of you guys, brothers and sisters, why is it that this is happening? Who's to blame? Or what kind of interest do you find in that? So that's one thing that I'm really trying to bring on the table and have an honest conversation with you guys. In this 2025, I do believe that every single African, you must be awakened and you must open your minds as to what is happening to Africa and the continent at large. You must be open as to what is happening to your own people, to your families, to your communities, because the extinction is inevitable, especially if we stay close-minded about it. If we literally sleepwalking and the whole entire world is happening and none of you is doing anything about it. So again, I want to ask that same question: how many African military bases you find outside of Africa? Do we need them? First and foremost, how do we protect Africa if we don't even have a military base that us as African can say, this is our military? Nations have their own military, but this military, they oftentimes like a private military for a leader or a politician. These are the same military in different cases where you find that they're committing atrocities. And this is unacceptable. But it can only be unacceptable and we can only fight against it if and when we become aware of it and publicly and openly say, hey, what can we do about this? I know most of you are not accustomed to, or you're not used to seeing an African talking openly about Africa. There are some Africans who are publicly talking about it, but there are those who also speak, but they do not really talk what's in their hearts. We want to change that narrative, guys, because we love Africa, but we also love our hosted nations as well. If if I'm in the United States as an example, and I'm enjoying life here and I'm living and I'm doing my very best to have a better quality of life. Why would I not want the same better quality of life of another brothers and sister in Africa in whatever way that I can contribute to it? It is my duty as a son of Africa to make that happen the same way it is your duty as well. So, regardless of which country or which nation that you are in, I want to put it to you, or I will submit to you, that you have a duty, whether you've been spoken to openly or not. But you have to be able to service your own people. You have to be able to service your own family. You have to be able to service your community and your nation at large. There's not a single country on planet Earth that doesn't require their own citizen to help that same country to advance these nations. So African right now and African nations, we have to be able to come back as a one people. We have to reform the unity. We have to unify all over again. Because without that unity, we can never, never, never fight for our overall security. If I'm not unified with you, if you are not unified with me, we won't be able to have a long-lasting security. If we're not unified, we would not be able to have a development that actually benefit the entire African family, not just a very small collective. In this 2025, we literally have to change the status quo, guys. And it starts by doing whatever it is that you can. It also starts by us getting together, acknowledging that there's something wrong with what's happening right now with Africa and African families. So when I see military of different countries arriving in Africa, not only it makes me wonder, uh, what are we going to do about this military? Who's responsible in allowing these military bases to set up shops? And is this in the best interest of Africans? I want to submit to you that unless you understand the purpose by which these military bases are being set up, you will never reap the benefit of them being there. But you're also going to be at risk of what they're bringing in. A very good example that I want to give you again, in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, there have been warfare, there have been wars as far as I can remember since 1994. So right now is going to be just a little bit over 30 years. Millions of people have died in the Democratic Republic of the Congo because of never-ending wars that are taking place. So many groups are fighting right now in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Yet the Congolese people do not manufacture weapons. How in the world do these weapons make it all the way to the Democratic Republic of the Congo? These countries that are fighting right now, or these different groups that have made it through, how is it that they're able to fight? I would love to really understand how is it that they can fight. And the Democratic Republic of the Congo people, the Congolese people, they can't stop it. The neighboring countries, they cannot stop it. Someone is profiting from these wars. There is an exchange of weaponry or of weapons taking place. There is training. There is a whole lot of weapon testing, weapons of mass destructions, chemical compounds that are being tested. There's so much of it is being tested right now in the Congo. You have all kinds of diseases that are catching the average person, and they have no idea how to get rid of that. And my question to you guys, how long is it gonna take before we realize that we must, by any means necessary, stop what is happening on our own homeland? How many lives must perish before we can agree that enough is enough? It is unconscionable that in 2025 you have various African nations watching Congolese people dying as one of the example that I can literally give up. They're watching Congolese people dying. And the very best we can come up with is having meetings about it. Going to Rwanda, going to Kenya, to Nairobi for all kinds of meetings about it. For 30 years, lives are being literally lost on the daily basis. And the very best that the politician can come up with is going for meetings. I want to bring it to you that first and foremost, who is selling these weapons being used to kill these people, to kill our brothers and sisters in the Congo? What companies, what manufacturers are selling these weapons? How in the world did they make it through the Congo, in the Congolese soil, on the Congolese soil? How is it that the international community isn't bothered whatsoever by what is happening? The Congolese people are already fighting day in and day out for their for their livelihood. But unfortunately, for the most of for the most of these people, they're dying the same way an ant can easily be squashed like this. 20 plus millions of people who have perished. You will never get to know their names. And more are being killed every single day. What kind of people are we, guys? Just because today you don't have any warfare at your doorsteps, yet your neighbor is fighting for his or her life. When will you have the heart to say that, you know what, this also concerns me? Their lives matter as much as my life matters as well. I only named Congolese people as one example. We have so many wars in Africa. You've got wars right now in Ethiopia, in Eritrea, in Sudan, in Mozambique. Even in the West Africa. There's so many wars taking place right now, and you are being told, you are being sold so many version of what is happening, so that you can actually continue to just drink some Kool-Aid. Guys, we must do something about this. In this 2025, we literally have to own up on the responsibilities to clean our own homeland. We must hold accountable politicians, those we have trusted to protect ourselves, to protect our people, to protect our interests. We have to hold them accountable as to all these extra things happening. We cannot allow it to continue to happen as is, without any repercussions. But we got to start from somewhere. And so that is why I am calling all of you out. Brothers and sisters, we have to literally man up and woman up. If a lot of these first world countries, as they call themselves, cannot allow you to conduct business as you please in their own nations, how is it that they're conducting business on our own homeland? And by the way, this isn't discrimination, and this is not hate. I am simply asking a question or questions that pertains to our livelihood. This is literally for us is life or death. Because had we not had those weapons in the Congo, 20 plus million people wouldn't have died. And up to this very moment, nobody talks about that in the right positions of power. They know it is happening. They know it has taken place, and more of it is happening. But the lives that are perishing, nobody wants to talk about it. And those who are talking about it do not have the power to make changes, to do something about it that is tangible and measurable. So I want you and I want us to join forces, guys, as Africans, and take care of our own problems. I believe 30 years is more than enough to say, hey, you know what? Enough is enough. Let's do something about our own homeland. Let's do something about our own issues. Don't wait for New York to do something about it. Don't wait for Paris to do something about it. Do not wait for Moscow to do something about it. Do not wait for Sydney to do something about it. Do not wait for Beijing to do something about it. Be the one doing something about it before those others come to help out. And some of the help you do not need. by the way. But of course, all of this, you can do nothing about if you don't even know that there are problems or there are issues. You won't be able to do anything about it if you are afraid that somebody's going to kill you or you will lose your job because of this. It is risky. We already know that. But so is your life, and so is my life, and so is the life of our community, the lives of those within our community. Something has to give, guys. And we got to be the one taking care of ourselves before any help can come through. So when I ask this question as to why is it that foreign military bases are in Africa, yet Africans don't have the military bases outside of Africa, I believe that is a legitimate question to ask. But now you as a people, I want that to marinate in your minds and ask yourself, how is it that a foreign military is here and I have no idea why they're there? And certainly not for my interest or our interest, but for their own interest. Can we then agree that, you know what, slavery is still going on openly? And any nation that can actually flex the muscle can come to Africa and to any nation within Africa and do as it pleases? Then we are not free, guys. We are truly not free. Because freedom on papers, freedom on the mouth, yet we don't have the physical freedom, isn't freedom at all. And it is so sickening that politicians, they behave like they have no idea what is happening. These are the biggest slaves that African has right now in 2025. And these, unfortunately, are also our representatives. I'm not insulting you. I'm simply stating the facts. And I want to ask that we do something about this as a people, collectively, but also on an individual basis, on family basis, on community basis, but also as nations. We are going to perish. We are perishing as a people if we stay on the route that we're on right now. If we stay the course, we are going to perish literally, without any doubt. So we're talking about wars being waged against us, willing or unwillingly. Now there is also other kinds of wars that are also being utilized to literally destroy us as a people. Diseases, man-made diseases, being literally utilized as weapons, chemical warfare, chemical weapons against us. How many diseases we have right now? Countless. Manufactured out of labs, brought to Africa, testing towards African people. Sometimes they are being given through vaccinations. We know it's happening, guys. There are scientific papers written about it, testimonies about this happening right now on the African continent. African people being poisoned publicly and nobody does anything about it. But most of the time, we are not organized enough to do anything about it. And I'm wondering, all things equal, if it was Africans doing that towards other nations, would that slide? Would that actually be allowed to take place? And I will submit to you that that would not be happening to any one of these nations. Yet, it is okay that it happens towards Africa and African people. Shame on us as Africans, but also shame on you who is in position to do something about it, but you haven't done anything about it for various reasons, including being afraid. We cannot stay afraid forever. If the end point, if the destination is death, you delay doing something about it, you're getting closer and closer and closer and closer to your deathbed. I'd rather fight right now with my two hands than just waiting until death finds me on my deathbed. And I will hope that you also do the same thing, because this is not a game, guys. Literally, people are dying. Africans are dying in great numbers. But media won't say that, because we do not have any control over media. Which is why we have to start telling our own stories. We have to start recording all these atrocities ourselves. And we have to be able to properly document what is happening, how it happened, who was there, and what. So that at a proper time, when we have the strength and the capacity to actually seek justice and to pursue those who are committing genocide on a greater scale, we can have some evidence. Because right now we have all kinds of technology that is actually prohibiting you to collect evidence. For example, there are people being killed and burned using incinerator machines. You have these incineration stations that are simply just burning people, burning evidence. Meaning they're cleaning villages after villages after villages, and to make sure that there is no evidence, they're burning the bodies. This is not a movie, guys. And this is not exaggeration. This is happening in 2025. It has happened in 2024. And those who have been brave enough to either take some pictures or some videos, some of them ended up dead. Others, they have been blackmailed to not publish any of those things, either because they are going to lose their jobs, or they're going to, to lose access, in so many other ways. So I want to plead with you, brothers and sisters, those who love African family. We need help as Africans, but we also need to organize ourselves. We need to reunite as Africans. And we need to defend our own lives. We need to defend our own nations by any means necessary. But we also need to make sure that now we take within our own hands our own self-development on all fronts, not just one area, on the various area of necessity for us to continue to live on this planet Earth. I would love for you guys to pay attention to what is going to happen globally in this year 2025. And once you look at that, pay attention and observe what is going to happen towards Africa as a continent and towards African people, both within Africa and outside of Africa. You are going to be shocked. And that's why I would like to make sure that we prepare ourselves mentally so that we are not shocked when we start seeing these things happening openly. It is already happening, but in this 2025, you are going to observe, you are going to witness more of to come. So, brothers and sisters, I really want to play with you to care about our own families, to care of our own communities. And I want to play with you to pledge your own life, to pledge our lives towards our better tomorrow. How can we move on as an African family if we are perishing left and right, up and down? We can't even guarantee tomorrow if there isn't tomorrow to be talked about. We are so tired of being slaves, modern slaves. We are so tired of being in these open prisons. We are so tired of seeing our loved ones being kidnapped, being tortured, being sold into slavery, being dehumanized in all kinds of ways. And this is being done by another human being because they don't think that Africans are human beings like any other human being that we have on planet Earth. Africans are now fully considered like human beings, hence being killed, hence being mistreated like the way you can mistreat an ant. This isn't right, guys. But because the so called advanced races don't see that, it is up to us to see that, and it is up to us to do something about it. I wonder what would happen if all of a sudden we started documenting where these guns are coming from, which manufacturers is selling the weapons that are killing African children, African families, African daddy and mommy, and how they ended up there. Who were those weapons sold to? Are these weapons from any specific military base or any military organization, or they're privately being brought to Africa? The last I checked, there's no commercial planes that can carry military hardware without the government knowing it or customs knowing about it. So these weapons, in order for them to be brought to Africa, they are being brought by military. We know how many military personnel from various nations that are bringing in cargoes after cargoes after cargoes after cargoes of unknown things or unknown elements. That's how these weapons are making it to Africa. You have these unchecked flights, military flights, full of cargo of military hardwares, weapons, guns, grenades, all kinds of weapons of mass destructions being brought into Africa. Not only that, I want to submit to you that every single year, the G5 nations, the United States, Canada, Germany, France, China, and Russia. I think Canada is not part of the G5. There's the US, there's United Kingdom, France, Russia, and China, right? The G5. They sell weapons to Africa. They bring in weapons, all kinds of military, hardware, publicly and secretly. But now also ask yourself, how many other nations also supply weapons to Africa? Now, unofficial or secretly. Would you ask your own governments how much money is being spent towards military hardwares? Are they going to tell you what it is that they're buying? Who sold them those weapons? And why is it that you can afford to buy food that you are able to stock weapons? And when we talk about stocking weapons, we're talking about literally full stock of weapons. Who's going to afford that? Where are you getting the money to purchase all those weapons? And what about the weapons that you cannot account for that are being utilized in the theaters of wars? Guys, these are valid questions that we should be asking today, but not in the world that after year. Happy at all that my brothers and sisters are because of wars by these weapons. I am not happy that my brothers and sisters are literally perishing because of vaccinations. Contaminated vaccination. We also know about that. Vaccinating a bunch of people, but also utilizing the contaminated vaccination. I already told you guys, fact check me publicly, because there's a whole lot of information that we must be able to share publicly of that which is happening, which is abhorring. But because a lot of these stations, a lot of these media are not brave enough to awaken the population, specifically the African population, the African people, it is not up to us to do it. Even if we die doing it, and so be it. I think it will be a price good enough to pay for our own people to have a better, a better tomorrow. If we already are headed towards a destination bed, if we are perishing as a people, the only difference is when. But if we can turn around the ship and avoid that to happen, then we can actually all celebrate together. This is an alarm, literally a public alarm that says, hey, we are being destroyed openly as African people. We must not allow that to continue. We must be on our own toes. We must secure ourselves instead of trusting foreigners to secure ourselves on all front. We must check our own governments and make sure that they're actually looking after our very best interest, not the interest of those who mean harm to us. Real talk, guys. This is real talk. It is sad that in 2025, Africa, with all its riches, we are still hungry. It is sad that in Africa, with all its glamorous, we are still dying. And it is sad to see that in 2025, with all its splendid, Africans, we still want to get outside of Africa. Yet nobody wants us to go outside of Africa. Other nations do not want us to go outside of Africa. And it is sad that in 2025, African continent is still being invaded by anybody who can flex the muscle, come in and get out as they please. Yet you won't be able to do that to any of the nations outside of African continent. What's wrong with this picture? Is this truly the freedom that you fought for, or that we fought for, or that we were given as an inheritance? And I want to submit to you guys that this isn't the freedom that we ought to have as Africans. This is not freedom. This is modern slavery, where the value of an African isn't any more than a chicken. I'm sorry to use those words. Our lives are no more valued like animals. Because if our lives mattered, millions of lives that have been perishing for these past 30 years would have at least alarmed an international community to do something about it. Yet, up to this very moment, nothing has yet been done about it. And the worst part about it, we know that it has happened. And we know that it is happening still. But because, again, our disunity, we can't do nothing about it. I've got my own issues. You've got your own issues. He or she got their own issues there. And we're just busy trying to survive. But we are not busy trying to protect one another. So if we protect ourselves, we can also survive collectively. If we reunite as one people, we can also fight as one people. And we can also set up our own tomorrow as one people and self-develop as one people. What's missing for us? What is missing in order for us to get that done? That's one thing that I would very much love to talk to you guys about it. I am a concerned man of Africa. And I will lay down my life towards our better tomorrow. Because my life is it's not as important if our lives aren't that important. My life is not valued if our lives aren't valued. Don't be silent, guys. This is literally a matter of life and death that is happening to us, to our African family at large. Our brothers and sisters are perishing one by one without any of you knowing what is happening. It's unacceptable, my people. It is literally unacceptable. So I will plead that we get together, we unite so that we can fight together and we can put an end to all of this. It may be hard to do. I know I'm not under no illusion that this is going to happen overnight, but we got to start from somewhere. But we also have to own up on all that is happening. We got to start the bleeding and move or reverse the status quo. All of that is us who have to get it done, not our neighbors, not those who are making it happen. So I know you are not accustomed to hearing conversations like this, but we got to start from somewhere. In this 2025, we have vowed that we are going to talk about this publicly. We already talking about it privately. We already talking about it amongst unique groups within ourselves, but we also found it necessary that we actually bring it in the open of our own tables, so that those of you who do not know about it, you can actually hear of it. But also so that you would never say that you never knew that something like that is happening. I'd rather you know about it and choose not to do something about it, because now it became a matter of choice, not a matter of I never knew. So there's so much that we are going to be sharing with you guys publicly. And I will plead that our African family will do something about it. And by the way, the other day I was telling you that an African is not just African people on the African continent. These are any person who has this color, this dark color, all over the world. You are still an African. Do not feel stigma. Do not feel embarrassed. Do not feel like, you know what? No, I don't see myself as an African. If you have African blood in you, you are an African. You may have been born outside of African continent, but you are still an African. Ask me how I know. Where you are, you get treated like a second or third class. You are not fully what you want to be, but you are also not an African, because you don't know what it is that you want to be. But I want to tell you, embrace yourself as as an African. We are beautiful people, guys. We are really amazing. And we know so much about this world. There's so much hidden within you right now. But you have to embrace it and let it out and allow it to come out, and be proud that you are an African. And fight for your Africanness. Fight for yourself, for your family, for your community, and for your countries. But we also need to break down these boundaries within African nations. I was asking the other day, why is it that I do not require a visa to go and visit Virginia? Why is it that I do not require a visa to go to New York? Why is it that I do not require a visa to go to Georgia, to go to Florida, to go to Texas, to go to California? Africans, I would love for you to think about that. Here in the United States, there are 50 countries that have formed the United States of America. These 50 nations do not have visas for their people, for their citizens to travel from one nation until to another. Here we call them states. So why is it that the African continent, you are so you are so backed down by visa? You won't let another brother and sister get in your country or get out of your country. You are so caught up into this whole boundary thing, and you're forgetting that you divide and you conquer. If I keep you in one corner and I take you and take another brother or sister in another corner where there is a disunity, I can come in and kill you, and once I finish, I can come in and kill this other person. And that is literally what has been happening with our family, with our African family. This is the time for us to put this to an end. But we can't put it to an end without knowing or understanding that it is actually happening. And we also have to be bold enough to acknowledge that it is happening, but also to point finger like, you are the cause, you are the cause, you are the cause, because we also know where it's coming from. But we are afraid to say that this is the source of our issues, of our problems. But we got to be able to be strong enough, to be courageous enough to point the finger right where the source of the problem is. But also remember, when you point one finger, there are three fingers that actually are looking at me. I am also to blame. You are also to blame. But there is also a third party, that one or the two, that have to come to an equation today. So I want to ask of you guys to be awake, to wake up. Wake up and fight for your own families. Wake up and fight for your own communities. Wake up and fight for your own countries. But above all, wake up and fight for yourself. Because nobody else is going to do it if you don't do it yourself. And guys, with that in mind, I want to say thank you for listening to me. And I want to promise you that we are going to do all that we can to fight for our people, to fight for our families, to fight for our communities, to fight for the African family at large. We are one family, guys. We are one African family that has been chopped up into so many pieces. And those little pieces also got chopped up in so many little tribes. And those little mini tribes got chopped up in so many little, I don't know what. We have to be able to reunite our African family back to being a one African family. And we got to be able to reunite as we solve every single one of the problems that we have as Africans. And we have so many opportunities at hand that we can collectively jump on and take care of them. But we also have an opportunity to self-develop ourselves. And all of that we can achieve if we reunite ourselves. We can secure ourselves as Africans. We can have our military bases go wherever it is we want them to go, so long as it's in the interests of Africans. And of course, we are not going to go in other countries' territories, but we are certainly going to secure our own African continent. And we are going to secure our own interests first and foremost before other nations, because every country outside of Africa, they have their own homeland, they have their own interests, and they have those priorities that they're actually fighting for. Why is it that we're not fighting for our own priorities as Africans? So I want to leave it to that, guys, and I want to say there is more to come, but do not be afraid. I'm your brother. I'm your son. It is only because I love you, my people. I love my homeland. I love Africa. I love our African family at large. that I am here risking my whole life, that I am here publicly speaking those words, those things that nobody is want to talk about, or the few are talking about it, because it has to start from somewhere. And we have to speak with no apologies to that which is happening. But above all, we have to raise an alarm that our people, African people, are perishing today through wars, through vaccination, through all kinds of means that have been already pre set up for us to perish through. What I'm saying here, we can back it up by evidence. Hence, my boldness coming in front of you right now saying, raise the alarm because we are perishing as a people. We are perishing as a people. And let's not allow that to happen while we are still breathing. All right. So, guys, and that's it for me for today. I want to move on to another assignment, but it is with such a humble that I say thank you for allowing me to share the time today. I know it hasn't been easy and it is not going to be easy, but I know for sure that God is with us. I believe in God. I believe in Almighty. We are not going to perish just because another human being had said so. We are going to eradicate all these diseases. We are going to eradicate all these devious plans against us as Africans. I am Freeman Singirankabo here at AfriDominion. I want to wish you guys a beautiful, beautiful day. Those of you waking up, I wish you a beautiful day. Those of you going to bed, I want to wish you a good night. Until I see you next time, I bid you farewell and God be with you guys. Peace.